Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to both the online participants and the physical participants in the Zawiya. We are moving swiftly on to our next session, which really is an important session, and the reason being that we've now been given some knowledge about the Day of Judgment. We know about the various stages on the Day of Judgment, and a number of brothers have really experienced visions regarding the Day of Judgment. But as our blessed teacher said earlier, that all really counts for nothing unless you adopt and implement the practical methods which will now be given to you in this session. As the blessed teacher said, you won't be asked about what visions you had on this particular weekend at the Zawiya. But what you will no doubt be asked is, once this session is over, what did you implement from this session? You will be taught in relation to the Tazkiyah and the purification course, which really is going to help you on the Day of Judgment. This is a practical method which will actually help you on the Day of Judgment. And it's a bit like you've been to a personal trainer, he's now giving you a course which you need to follow at the gym, but you've actually now got to turn up to the gym and do the hard work. No point having the theory sat at home, the visions and everything else, if you don't practically implement it as such. The next session will be delivered by Ustad Jaabir, who is a graduate and works in the civil engineering sector. This session will lead us up to the run-up to Asr, inshallah, and there will be some opportunity for one-to-ones prior to Asr, so if any brothers wish to avail of that opportunity, they can see myself and I will take their names down. So I will now hand over to Ustad Jaabir. Jazakallah khair.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. To spend the last maybe 48 hours in his house learning about a day which is equal to 50,000 years. And as the blessed teacher mentioned, that this is more than 800 of our earthly lives. Now, just to put this into some type of context that imagine if our employer, when we go to work on Monday, they say to us, if you work for one day and we will give you the wage, if you work 95 for one day, we will give you the wage of just over 2.5 years. We will give you wage and reward. You will not have to work again for 2.5 years. I don't think there's anyone here who wouldn't accept that. Not only accept that, but try to get their friends and family on that as well. Try to get everyone on this, meaning that we just have to work for one day. We have to work for this one day, and we'll be rewarded for 2.5 years. We can maybe go back home, live like a king for 2.5 years. No worries or regrets. But really now, this day that we have been focusing on, this Day of Judgment, this Day of Reckoning, is like this. We all have the belief of this. This is one of our fundamental points of belief, that we believe in the Day of Reckoning, the Day of Judgment. So now let's, as the teachers we mentioned, let's bring this into our lives every single day. And this is what this next hour is going to be focused on, how we can deal with the problems of the Day of Judgment, or of tomorrow, today. How we can deal with the problems of tomorrow, today. And really, whenever we think about the Day of Judgment, we always think about punishment, torment. But imagine now, after we have been given a plan or something set to do, that we flip that mindset and we look at this as like an opportunity. Like the teacher mentioned just like an hour ago, that if we think that we are on a break or we are relaxing throughout this life, all this life is about is enjoyment, then we are going to find the aspects that are going to make our tomorrow better. We will find them burdensome. We will find them hard to do. Waking up for Fajr, waking up for the night prayer. And we have also been taught that this day will be a day of accountability. 50 stations or 50 courts that we will have to give question for. And there is one famous story. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but there is one famous story now. This is a true story now. This happened maybe 12 years ago. This one Malaysian parliament member of parliament, he had to be questioned by the police about something that he did. He was questioned by the police, and just by this questioning, this person had a heart attack and passed away. Imagine the questioning of humans. There was no force, there was no torture, but just by the questioning that this person passed away. This is an example for us now. Now let's say, for example, we go to our homes. We all go back to London, Woking, Bolton, Manchester, and Nelson. We sit down, we put our bags down, and we get a knock on the door. And it's the police. We know nothing about this. The police say, "Come with me." We can't say, "No, I don't want to go." That would be an offence. It would be resisting arrest. So we get a knock on the door, the police say, "Come with me." How would we feel? Maybe for an hour we'll be in anxiety, and once we explain to them that we have not done any wrong, for that 1 hour we'll be in pain and anxiety. Now let's maximize this to this 50,000 years. Do we want to be of those people who feel this day as 50,000 years, or as the teacher mentioned, do we want to be of those people who feel this day as like 1 hour? 20 minutes if felt like to me. If we want these things, and we want to be saved from the difficulties of tomorrow, then really this session that I'm going to deliver will give the solutions to this, inshallah. And the majority of people here maybe already know the solution. So does that mean we have to switch off and we not think? This should be a further encouragement. This retreat that we have sat and we have learnt about this blessed day, this should be a further encouragement for us now to get on this solution and fast forward to our death, and then live the rest of our existence in peace and tranquility with the Mashaykh and with the Prophet ﷺ and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, now without further ado, I'll go into it, but really this is one of the most important sessions, so I request everyone to be alert and if they are on the phones or the people at home, to be attentive throughout this session now. But before we go into solving tomorrow's problems today, we need to know background. Why do I need to focus on the day regiment? Maybe we might have questions in our mind that I didn't sign up for this day regiment. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't agree to be questioned. I didn't agree that my every action will be brought to question. So now inshallah, this next section will focus on understanding what our worldview should be, what this worldview should be in order for us to be successful in the next world, what this worldview should be so that we can be successful and that our next life could be ease and a breeze. So this is like our whole timeline. This section here is like our whole timeline. the teachers give the importance of timeline and knowing where we are in this timeline of life. So first of all, there was a period of non-existence, and this is only when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was in existence. So in the beginning there was only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else. And out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love for himself, he created the creation, everything, the spirit of everything. Out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love for himself, he created everything. Now this brings us on to the next phase, is the world of spirits. And there was something that happened here that we, myself, yourself, every single person here, and all the people that are even not here, there's something that we agreed to here that shapes up not just this life, but for the future, for the day of judgment, for the grave, for the hell or paradise. Now what was this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a manner that befits his majesty approached the whole of the creation. Who wants to take a promise with me? Who wants to take this covenant with me? So the mountains were asked, the heavens, the skies, the rivers, the whole of the creation was asked. Humankind, Jinnat, every single creation was asked. And it has been mentioned that the skies cried for days, hearing this one thing, that who wants to take a covenant with me? If you abide by this covenant, if you abide by this promise or this covenant, then I will, in my own words and effects, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that I will give you such pleasure, such infinite peace that no eye has ever seen. Imagine something that no eye has ever seen, or no ear has ever heard, or no mind could even comprehend. So if you abide by this promise and you are true to this promise or this covenant, then you will get such pleasures. You get such pleasures. But if you do not, then the torment will be like no eye has ever seen, or no ear has ever heard, or no mind could ever comprehend. And we've been learning about this Yawm al-Qiyamah, this day of judgment. This is maybe one of the like a slight glimpse of this, a slight glimpse of the punishment. We cannot imagine it, but even just not us not being able to imagine it, this is still just a slight glimpse. So the whole it was mentioned that the clouds of one of the creation cried for days just out of fear of this. So really we should think about, what is this covenant now? What is this covenant that everyone was afraid of, but mankind, i.e. us, we accepted this. We accepted this covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the question is, what is this covenant? What is this promise that we had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now imagine our mothers or our fathers now. They say to us, oh son or daughter, do you love me? Do you love me? And we reply, I reply, yes mother, I love you. But does this statement hold any worth? Does this statement hold any worth? Up until I am tested upon this statement, there's no worth to this. I could say for days that, Mom, I love you, I this, but when it comes to down to accepting the guidance of my mum, or being told off by my mum that I do not that I disobey my mother. So now, this covenant that we had taken with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was free will. That we had to use this free will. Now every single person here, every single one of us, If we want to believe, we can. If we do not want to believe, we don't have to. There's no compulsion, meaning. So this is the free will. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers this. Now imagine this gathering. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers the whole of the mankind and jinn kind and says, Alastu bi rabbikum. Alastu bi rabbikum. Imagine the kalam of, we have all heard the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our spirits have all heard the kalam of the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alastu bi rabbikum. To which we all replied, oh yes, yes, O Lord, yes, O Allah, you are our Lord. So as I was mentioning before, we have uttered a statement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you are our Lord. At the time, this didn't hold weight. So to make this statement hold weight, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us to this earth. Now remember that there was no compulsion in taking this covenant. There was no compulsion in taking this covenant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not force upon this covenant upon anyone. But we all accepted, we all testified. Every single person, myself, yourselves, the people online, the people who are not even here, the people who have passed away, the people who are yet to come. All of these people have accepted this covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, yes, O Allah, you are our Lord. This covenant of loyalty. So since we have testified to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are to be tested upon this now. So we always hear that this world is not a resting ground, and as the teacher has been mentioning, that this world isn't a game of isn't a world of breaks or isn't a world of enjoyment. This world is a world of testing. We all have accepted this. Now, if we say, what's the evidence of this now? What's the evidence? It's a question, isn't it? What evidence is there of this? Do we deny the Quran? This has been mentioned in the Quran. That's the evidence of this, that we have taken this covenant. Now what do? Do we just as the teachers mentioned, do we just haphazardly go about life and if there's a bit of enjoyment here, we'll do it here. If there's a bit of enjoyment in Deen, we'll pray our namazes if we feel like it, or if we don't feel like it, we won't, and these types of things. Then we are not preparing for our day tomorrow. So we have testified to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hence we are here now in this world. We are here in this world now to be tested by that, and our tomorrow will be a result of what we do today. So if we want to make our tomorrow easy, really it's a very simple formula. Very, very simple formula, which is to follow the Prophet ﷺ in every deed and action. The next major thing that happened, so there's two things that have happened. The first is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approaches, and in a manner that befits His Majesty, approaches the creation and asks them, who wants to take a covenant? There's no compulsion in this, but who wants to take a promise with me? And the mankind and jinn kind accept. That was the first major incident. The second major incident was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we testified to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through this testification we will be tested in this world using our freedom of will, using the promise that we had, or the covenant that we had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now the third thing is the Muhammadiyah covenant. That it is mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathered all of the prophets and took a promise that they would only love, obey and serve the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But really this isn't for them. Why? Because they love, serve and love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam anyway. But really this is for us as the ummatis of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is for us as the ummatis of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we love and we follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in every deed and action, and our intentions and our inward and outward. And the fourth major thing that happened on this day in the world of spirits is the covenant of obedience. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, did I not enjoin upon you, O children of Adam, that you do not worship Shaitan? Indeed, he is your clear enemy. Maybe we have heard this verse before, isn't it? We've heard this verse many times, but now it brings about a whole new meaning to us, that really we have a link to this verse now, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted upon us and took a covenant of obedience with us, that, oh children of Adam, did I not, in my own words, did I not enjoin upon you that you do not worship Shaitan? He is your clear enemy. So that's the fourth thing that happened in this world of spirits that really shapes up why we're here. Then now we go to the next phase of life, which is this world that we are in right now. This world that we are in right now. This is a short period of existence up until death. So now, how do we use this world, or what is the real reality of this world? Like the teacher mentioned, on an average life based upon 60 to 70 years, the day of judgment will be 800 years. But now we're thinking that, at least they've got 40 years left, isn't it? If person's 40, they've got 40 years left. If person's 20, they've got 60 years left. If person's 30, they've got 50 years left. At least I've got 50 years to live my life. I've got 50 years of enjoyment, or I've got 50 years to at least enjoy myself in this life. But if we really ponder upon this now, if we really ponder upon this quote unquote enjoyment, if we break down an average life of 60 years, 13 years of our life we spend this in childhood, when we are coming to grasp with things. People are telling us right and wrong, and we are learning about what we enjoy. So we really can't have that in our time of enjoyment. Why? Because we are still learning, isn't it? We spend 15 years in work and education, and it's very seldom that we find people who like to study or like to go to work. Very seldom. We spent 2 years in the bathroom, but with our eating habits nowadays, maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 6 years that we spend in the bathroom. We spend 1 year in anxiety and problems, so we can't be living our best life, as they say. We can't be living life to the fullest if we are in anxiety and problems. The real actual adult living that we have is 6 years. So isn't it more important that we spend these 6 years in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than to spend these 6 years enjoying what the nafs likes to do, or that shaitan wants us to do, and then have our difficult tomorrow? So this is really the reality of this life. And as the teacher mentioned, one thing that we should definitely, it was a very profound thing that the teacher mentioned today, that really, if you want to have this motivation to do the worship and act upon sunnah, then really it's just a mindset change. We hear about mindset all the time, but they really solved such a big problem in our day and age, which is people feeling lazy to the ibadah. Why? Because we are not thinking about this world as a testing ground. Really, we're not. If we think about this world as we want to enjoy this world, then really the acts of salah and doing one's zikr or muraqabah or acting upon the sunnah, we will find it hard, and eventually we will give up. So then we will go to the intermediate into the barzakh, and we all know the high part of barzakh is for those who have spent there today in goodness, and the lower part will be of those people who spend there today in following shaitan and the evil desires of the nafs. So now we know our worldview, where we came from. So now if I can ask a quick question, what is the reason that we are here? Brother Tasneem, what is the reason why we are here, and what is the greatest motivation? Sorry, the first question, what's the whole reason why we're here, and that we need to take seriously the accountability of the next world? To serve Allah, get to know His sifat. That's somewhat correct, but there was something that was explicitly mentioned. If you want to phone a friend, you can pass it on to anyone else in this room. The brother in the front, Abdurrahman. In fact, you must like probably already well acquainted with this, so we might have to give you a bit of a pass on this one, if that's okay. Brother, what's the reason that we're here?
Ultimately, to gain the closeness of Allah and the pleasure of Allah for a successful afterlife.
Yeah, that's the purpose of why we're here. But what was the sort of story behind why we're here?
The covenant that we take with Allah, to make sure we live up to that.
Yeah. Now, really, let's think about what this brother has mentioned: a covenant, a promise we have taken with Allah. Now, really, let's break this down and really think about this: that we have a promise on our shoulders with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine the King of Kings. Imagine having, imagine having a promise with, I don't know, let's say, for example, our CEOs at work. Maybe imagine having a promise with them. They say to us, we promise to our bosses that we will deliver X, Y, Z amount of targets over 1 week's period. That 1 week, the only thing that we're going to be thinking about is them targets, isn't it? Or else we're going to lose our jobs. But we have a promise and a covenant, a promise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Creator. Imagine, not just our Creator, the Creator of every single thing in existence, to whose blessed kalam that we recite, i.e. the Quran, i.e. the Creator of the Prophet ﷺ. We have a promise with Him. Really, this is one thing that, if this penny drops, then really this is the greatest motivation, or the greatest thing that, one of the greatest things that we could ever do work with. This will catalyst our journey then. Because then it's not a case of, oh, if I feel like I'll worship, or if I feel like doing the course of purification, I'll do it. Then it's like, no, I've already made a promise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've made a promise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm going to live up to this, inshallah. And even if a person is not living up to it, ask the one who we have a promise with. How beautiful is this? That we can ask the one who we have a promise with, Ya Allah, please help me. I've got a promise with you, Ya Allah, that I want to obey you. But please, Ya Allah, I'm finding this difficult. Please help me, Ya Allah. And then what's the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come? We've all heard the saying of Prophet ﷺ and the hadith that strange is the matter of the believer, that whatever situation he's in, it could be a positive, in my own words and effects. Even if a person isn't living up to this, right now, a person knows if they are living up to this or not, this promise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if we make this intention right now, that when I get up off this chair, when I get up from sitting down, that I'm going to be a changed person. Yes, a person might think that, I'm going to be subject to this for like a week, and then I'll go back to my old ways. Even if a person thinks like that they have this pressing thought that, oh, I can't live up to it. Whenever this thought comes, then put this thought to this one saying, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can take me to wherever He wants to take me. If I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take me there. So yeah, the reason why we are here is because we have taken a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a promise with Him, that we will worship Him in every facet of our lives, not just in the prayer, but through the mind, through the heart, through the nafs, through our spirit, through our body, whether we're at work, whether we're at the masjid, whether we're at home, whether we're with the family. So yeah, the next phase is the day of judgment, and then, as we know, from this day we'll be given a ticket to either the paradise or the hell, where we will reside forever. The human mind cannot comprehend this word forever. That's why the teacher mentioned 10 billion, may I forgive me if I'm wrong, 10 billion years. If 10 billion was to be times by 10, was to be square rooted by 10 billion, it still would not end. Imagine this, that if 10 billion was to be times by 10 billion, and that would be times by 10 billion, and that would be times by a trillion or a gazillion, I don't know if there's even a thing, but if that was to be even times by that, it still would never end. Now this brings light to the meaning that this world is like a drop in the ocean. Really it's not, because if the ocean is infinite, yeah, then yeah, it is. But really, it's still not that. So this is our whole story now. So now we go to the Day of Judgment. So as we know, on that day there's going to be many difficulties. One way, so we know about the 50 courts, and Ustaz Siraj mentioned as much as he could. But the first station is a station of belief. We will be asked in courts about our belief. So to pass this day, we must have the correct belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat about the 7 articles of faith. So to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, belief in the prophets, belief in the angels, and so on and so forth. So the first thing that we should do is correct our belief. We also know, I don't know if Ustaz Siraj mentioned this, because he might have had time, but the 14th station, or the 14th court, will be the station of zakat, i.e. giving charity. But what does this mean, that we give charity, and we also have to know about the rulings of charity? And not only do we have to know about the rulings of charity, but we should know what the rulings are in our everyday worship. So to make tomorrow easier, we should know about, and we should correct our understanding of the compulsory acts of Deen. So of Hajj, of Salah, and even what the kalima, the statement, even of what the two testifications of faith, what they want from us. So the second thing that we should do is rectify our understanding of Deen, and it's very simple. There's brothers here who can teach this, but if for those who have come from far or that are online, that you can go to your local masjid and maybe the Imam Sahib could teach you about this, and even in regards to the belief as well. But for those who feel shy to approach their local imams, then maybe you could pass your names to myself, and we can organise something, inshallah, to correct our belief and our compulsory understanding of the everyday actions of Deen. The 15th station is a station of repentance. So not only will be questioned about whether we repented, but whether we forgave others as well. So what should we do? We should ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in order to begin to start to make our next life easier, so it's very simple now. In order to make our next life easier, we must continually and continuously keep repenting and ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from the people. And now imagine this, this is going to be quite heartaking for some people. Imagine that we have to ask forgiveness from the Prophet ﷺ as well. We have to ask forgiveness from the Prophet ﷺ as well, for all the times that we have not followed his sunnah. There's one thing not following, but there's one thing going against. mashallah, you brothers here imagine you spent 48 hours in the masjid just learning, wanting to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to get closer to Him and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So mashallah, you brothers are very blessed. But in order to make tomorrow easier, we must correct our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, correct our understanding, i.e. one's fiqh and the understanding of one's everyday actions. The third is that we should continually and continuously keep asking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fourthly, in order for us to begin to make our next life easier and the day of reckoning easier, is that we should be willing to strive. On that day, there's going to be enormous amount of struggle for each and every individual. So if we preempt that now, if we preempt the struggle now, then we can have our next life easy, inshallah. So the first thing is that we should correct our belief. The second thing is, Brother Abdul Rahman, without looking, if I go on, just mention what's the second thing that we should do. Yeah, so the first is correct our belief. What's the second thing? That's a very good answer. It's probably the best answer for everything, to make intention. MashaAllah. That's like one of them just statements, isn't it? No, but it's correct in one sense, but do you want to help Mark, brother? What's the second thing? It's literally no, but in the order that I'm doing it now.
Oh yes, it is
Yeah. Yeah, but not only zakat, our understanding of our everyday actions in Deen. So our salah, yes, mashallah, yes. So the compulsory actions of Deen. The third is repentance, i.e. to keep on repenting. And the fourth is to have that willingness to want to strive, having that willingness to want to strive. And you could say these are the prerequisites. These are the prerequisites for us to make our day of judgment easier. So we have to have these things in our hands first, or we have to make the intention to want to correct them first, in order for us to make our life easier, make our day of judgment easier. Yeah. Now, what happens is sometimes we don't feel like, even if some brother's telling us, brother, on the day of judgment this is going to happen, and on that day, if you look at unlawful things, that person's eyes will be impregnated, and so on and so forth. Sometimes we just don't want to hear it. Sometimes, brother, thank you, but I'll just turn the other way, thank you. I just don't want to hear about it right about now. Sometimes we feel low, isn't it? And as the teacher mentioned, that this is a sign that a person's a spiritual person, or a sign of spirituality, that a person feels low. Sometimes this isn't in our control, but sometimes it can be in our control. Now, if you follow what I'm going to say now, that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, whenever a believer sins, a black dot appears on the heart. So whenever we look at na-mahram, or whenever we use our hands for unlawful things, then a black dot appears on the heart. And what happens is, if you can see in diagram 4, that whenever we get these black dots on the heart, then really our heart feels heavy then. That's why sometimes, whenever we come out of the gatherings of zikr and nasiha, that we feel light sometimes, isn't it? Would that be correct, that we feel light sometimes, that whenever we come out of these gatherings? Why? Because sometimes it could be the case that we could be sinning and we come to these gatherings and they've purified us. Not all the time. Sometimes it could be a state that a person's in, a person could be feeling low, but sometimes it could be the fact that we are sinning and our heart is being darkened. And these are some of the stages of these are some of the states of the heart. So if we look at diagram number 1, this is state of the heart when a person is born. everything is pure. This is the state of the heart when a person embraces Islam. This is the state of it. This is the actual state of a heart of a person who's in disbelief, who doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no light in the heart. So this is the heart when it's been affected by sin. Now imagine the heart is being continuously affected by sin day in and day out. This is what the state of the heart looks like then. So in order for us to purify this heart, we must block the channels like this. Block the channels of sin that lead to the heart. Now how do we do this? Inshallah, we're going to go into this now. So you have to block each one off at a time. So there are 7 ways in which sins can enter the heart. Through the tongue, eyes, ears, hands, private part, feet and stomach. So if we sin with the tongue, black dot appears on the heart. So how do we correct this? Is if we put a block there, if we put a block on this, meaning that we do not sin from the tongue anymore. And this will inshallah make us want to learn about the Day of Judgment and also prepare for the Day of Judgment. So we also know that the one of the stations is speaking the truth. So we know this, that we are going to be asked about how much truth that we have spoken throughout our lives. So to pass this station, we must be upright and truthful in our speech and actions. So how do we do this now? Can anyone remember from yesterday's session where Ustad Harun mentioned about muhasibah, about accountability? The Day of Judgment is also known as the Day of Accountability. The 50 courts or the 50 stations will be held accountable for everything that we do. But if we hold ourselves to account in this world, then it makes tomorrow easier. That's very logical, isn't it? It's a very logical way of thinking. If we hold ourselves to account now, then tomorrow we won't be. Tomorrow there won't be any need for that. Well, there will be need, but we've already preempted that. So how does this work now? So to make the Day of Judgment easier this is a very, very simple method. Sometimes people can get very confused with this as well. It's a very simple method to stop the sins of the tongue. The sins are outlined here, and if a person commits this, he commits any one of these sins intentionally, they put an X down. Yeah, and if they don't, they put a tick. So let's say, for example, if a person hasn't sinned with the organ of the tongue for 10 days, but on the 11th day he sins, then he has to start again. He puts an X and starts again, and up until a person reaches 30 days. So let's say, for example, if a person reaches 26 days, and then let's say, for example, he sees someone that the person doesn't like, he consciously knows that he is going to sin, and then he begins to backbite about this person, then he would have to put an X down and start again. No matter how hard it's going to be to put that X down after 26 days of not violating or doing any sin, but a person should. This is the real taking account. This is the real muhasibah. So after 26 days, the person sins, X starts again, up until a person reaches 30 days of consistency with the tongue. It's a very simple concept, isn't it? There's nothing quickly. Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
You know at the bottom of the box here, there's all the different types of
Sins.
You then also put the number in there, say this is the sin.
Yeah.
In each box rather than across, so you know.
No. So you let's say, for example, on day number 13 you do the sin. You put the X on day number 13, and can you see this section here where it says rules violated? You put the number down there. Well, then it's just got to keep writing. Just got to keep writing multiple. Yeah.
If it is more than one sin, you can put numbers against that cross because you're not
Yeah.
going to use that.
Yeah.
You're not going to use that line again.
Yeah. So a person can do this as well, but really, now, if this is one thing that I want to mention. There's 20 sins here now. Everyone can see these 20 sins, yeah? There's 20 sins here. I don't think I've met any person who does every single one of these 20 sins. Maybe a person might be doing one or two. So don't let the 20 number make it difficult. This is just like a broad spectrum, but I don't think I've met anyone who does all 20 sins of the tongue. Maybe a person might be finding it difficult to do that they're doing 3 sins or 4 sins. So really honing on them sins that you're doing, as well as having the broader view of the others as well. So, yeah.
And then you've got the 11 rows. Once you've done 1 month, you start again the next month.
No. So I'll go into this now. Yeah. I'll go into this now. So, but well, just to answer your question. So once you've done the tongue, then you would move on to the ears, and the eyes, and the up until a person's continuously done all 7 organs, and then it blocked the sins from entering the heart. Jay? So brother?
So I think you said you cross it out the day if you were to commit that sin consciously.
Yeah.
If you did it by accident, like maybe you swore by accident because you didn't think about it, you swore, you still cross it out.
Now this is what you call a lifeline. This is the this one question could save a lot of hassle now. Yeah. So the brother mentioned if you do it unintentionally, what's the is it a tick or a cross, isn't it? Well, for that it'd be a tick. Now you're thinking that look, a person swear or a person has swore, and he's also ticking. This is like best of both worlds in one sense. Well, really, it's not. But in the now this whole method is focusing firstly on the conscious. So we first focus on dealing with the conscious, and then once we've dealing with the conscious, the subconscious. Once the subconscious become conscious, then the person already has the training of dealing with the conscious sins. Then a person will automatically won't do it. So seriously, now this is where people get stuck very, very much now. That you ask them, how are you doing with this course of purification? You say, I'm struggling with the tongue. I'm always, let's say for example, swearing accidentally, and then I put the X and I start again, and it's very hard. But then once a person understands this, that if a person knows if they're doing it consciously or subconsciously. Now, one example of this now, let's say for example, if a person is driving, person is late to work, person is driving now, and the only thing that person has in his mind is work. Driving, and someone pulls out next to them, and out of nowhere a person swears. It's not good. No one's saying it's good. No one's ever saying that swearing is good. But if a person swears, then this will be as an unintentional. Why? Because the person couldn't rationalize his speech at that time. Or let's say, for example, someone's walking past that the person doesn't like, and well, if this is the case, the person should really resolve with the person. But the person walking past that he doesn't like, and he swears at that person without even thinking, then this is what's known as an unintentional sin. Okay? So does that make sense? So a person person will put a tick, and then just carry on. Person should still do tawbah for that as well. Yeah. So person should.
Would it be similar for environments that you can't control? So, for example, if you're on the ears sheet,
Yeah.
you're in the supermarket, or if you're in the gym and they're playing music,
Yeah.
you don't want to listen to the music, but it's out of your control.
Yeah.
Would that also mean that you don't necessarily need to go across there?
Yeah. Yeah. So with this one for the ears, let's say for example, if a person is in the gym or person in the supermarket or the shopping centre, and there's music being played, as long as the person really detests that music and really doesn't want to listen to it, yeah, then it's still a tick. Why? Because we're not told to be controlling over others. We're told to be controlling of what our inward is, isn't it? We all know that if we are inclined towards a song and we are actively listen to the song, or if we are not inclined towards the song, and we really don't want to listen to the song, and it's bringing, and we really don't want to listen to the song. But if we listen to the song and it's bringing back old memories, then maybe that might have to be an X. See? As long as it's unconscious, yeah. No, sorry. As long as you're not listening to it consciously, yeah? So I hope that answers the question. Yeah, that's another one. As long as you don't get the karaoke machine out and I start singing along, because that would be a sin of the ears and the tongue as well. So it'll be a 2-in-1 that. But yeah, so is everyone clear on that aspect now? Yeah. So the whole method of the thingy. And one other station is the station of zina, meaning not a person's reached the station, not a person that's reached the station of zina, but more like the court of zina. So now a person will be asked in regards to how he used his eyes and his private parts. Again, the same concept, very, 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 very simple and very, very clear concept. Person's doing the sin intentionally, it's a cross. If a person isn't, it's a tick. And this way, a person trains each and every part of their bodily organs. So now, it's the same with the tongue. The similar sheep for the tongue, similar sheep with the ears, with the eyes, hands, private parts, feet, and stomach. And it's on a month-by-month basis. A person has to achieve 30 ticks, and then a person sits with their mentor, and the mentor will move them on. So now let's say, for example, all of these are done. Will a person still achieve ease on that day? Will a person still achieve ease on that day? No, because a person has to. We all know a person will be questioned in regards to their intention, isn't it? And evil planning. So there's going to be one station, is the false allegations against Muslims. So now we need to know how to save our mind from being questioned due to evil planning. So to pass through this station, one's mind must be free of all evil planning, but not only free of evil planning, but one's mind should always have the positive planning, as well as being positive and as well about thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, there's a similar method that's taught here, that let's say, for example, now, in fact, if everyone can just close their eyes, everyone can, I want to teach you a way of how to divert the thought. If everyone can just close their eyes. Now, we are all on a lush green meadow, and we're all walking, and we approach a gate, and we open this gate, and we see a monkey on a tree. The monkey is looking at us and being quite aggressive towards us. And we are somewhat captivated by this monkey now. But now, towards our left, we see a big, beautiful mansion, and we walk towards this mansion now. We walk towards this mansion, and we see the white doors of this mansion, and we walk inside, and inside we have a nice seating area. And now can everyone open their eyes? Can I ask now, who's still thinking about the monkey that was being aggressive? Is anyone thinking about the? Do you know at the start, as I said, the monkey was being quite aggressive and so on and so forth. Is anyone still thinking about that now? No. So now I'm going to explain that now. So let's say, for example, when a bad thought comes into a person, that is the example of the monkey now. The bad thought came in, we were looking at the bad thought. But did we fight the bad thought? Did we say, oh no monkey, we don't want to see you, monkey, or see you later? Did we get captivated? Did we get drawn in by that aggressive monkey? No. Did we? Or no? We just diverted the thought, and we carried on, isn't it? Now, similarly with this now, when shaitan puts a bad thought into our brain, if we begin to fight that thought, then we'll be captivated by it, and it'll only be a matter of time before we indulge in that sin. But if we divert our mind straight away, it could be to anything now. So it's a very clear step-by-step process, and I'm going to mention again. If we divert our thought away from that sin, let's say, for example, if you think about anything lawful, think about how Liverpool are going to win the Premier League, how United are just going to be perished forever. Anyway, but if we think about anything that's positive or anything that's lawful, then that diverts that thought, and then that's the best way of dealing with them sinful thoughts. So the step-by-step method is the sin comes into the mind. We don't indulge on the sin. So the first step is the sin comes into the mind. The second step is we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by praying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. That's the second step. The third step is we divert the thought to anything. It doesn't have to be about Deen. It doesn't have to. It's more praiseworthy if it is. But whatever distracts you away from it, like I said, if the destruction of Manchester United is going to get you away from evil, then it's positive. Yeah. If the destruction of any team, let's say any team, gets you away from that thought and not committing that sin, then that is a method. It's a very easy, it's a very clear step-by-step process. Does anyone have any quick questions in regards to this about the method? Or there's one thing about this as well. Do you know how, let's say for example, when people become mentally imbalanced, what do we say is that we say they are focusing on one thing, and they're captivated by one thing, isn't it? That they're being the one thing is controlling their brain over and over again. That is because they have let this one thing overtake their life. And whenever you question these people, or if a person watches like case study, or if a person reads case studies, it's always one small thing that gets out of control, isn't it? Now imagine, it could be one little small thought. Now I want everyone to really imagine, because it's quite profound. Imagine one thought entering our brain through the wasp of shaitan could be the reason we face punishment on that day forever. It's quite a scary thought, isn't it? That just one thought came into the mind, and because of that one thought, it led on to other things. The person changed their character, changed their behaviours, changed who they associate with, and they're committing sin after sin after sin after sin, just from one thought. But if that one thought was controlled, then that could be the difference between ease on that day and difficulty on that day. Very simple. And there are different levels of the mind as well. So the first is the negation of sin. The first is to when any thought of sin comes into the brain or into the mind, then a person is taught to divert that thought away. A person is taught to divert that thought away and to think about anything after seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So look, there's the negation of sin all the way to be level 10, which is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His presence. This is the only thing that captivates the mind then. A person is constantly in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's a big sort of take on, I'm not going to be too much longer on this, but there's a big take nowadays on positive thinking. Positive thinking is the way forward. Positive thinking will get things done. Positive thinking, and so on and so forth. But does anyone ever teach you how to practically adopt this quality? In this level of the second stage of purification, a person is taught how to practically positively think, and how to really adopt this quality in a person. No one wants to be around negative people, innit? when you say that I've earned £100,000, the negative people will say, why wasn't it £200,000? Why wasn't it £200,000? There's that saying, isn't there, that negative people find a problem with every solution, and positive people find a solution out of every problem. So what do we want to be? Positive, mashallah, that's it. So, but we, like everything is taught, isn't it? Everything is taught. Behavior is, even our behavior that we have is somewhat taught, you know. It's a product of our environment, as per research anyway. But so everything is taught. So we should, if we want to learn how to stop thinking negatively, it's taught how to do that here now. If you want to learn to be positive, it's here. Even if you want to learn how to use our mind to deeply think and ponder about things, ponder about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about everyday things, even that's taught here as well. So that's the second stage of purification, but it's also a way in which we can ease our our day of judgment today. Not even today, but from when we get up off our seats, inshallah. Now, let's say, for example, if our bodies are free of sin, our minds are free of sin, are we still going to have an easy day on that day? No. Why? Because there's one station, which is a station of character, where our character will be assessed. Where our character will be assessed. And if one's character aligns with the character of the Prophet ﷺ, then a person will pass through this station very easy. Then it's just like, you know, when a person goes to the airport, sometimes a person might get pulled to the side, or sometimes the clerk might just stamp the passport twice and say, go on. This is how we want to be, isn't it? We just want to get our passport stamped twice and onto the next phase. Again, how do we do this? What's the methodology of this? So if we think about some negative traits of the heart, so can someone mention any negative traits of the heart? Jealousy, yeah. Anything else? So the jealousy, envy, pride, arrogance, all these types of things. But there's one thing that puts every single thing. All of these things are dealt with in the third stage. But there's one thing that if we do things on a daily basis, even if we do good, that it affects our deeds. And what's that thing? That's it. So it's hypocrisy, isn't it? If a person's a hypocrite, even if a person's in praying his salah, doing his zikr, doing everything, then a person will not benefit on that day. Rather, the person will have so much torment on that day. So the methodology of this is that we focus on the direct opposite. So for hypocrisy is we focus on the quality of sincerity, and we build this up on a step-by-step process. And over time, the quality of sincerity will be in a person. So if you have a look at this diagram now, yeah. So let's say, for example, if a person's heart is filled with hypocrisy, a person's heart is filled, all the darkness there, you could say is the hypocrisy, yeah. And the person's got very, very little sincerity in him. The way to overcome this is that we focus and we strengthen the troops of sincerity. So as you can see on this diagram here, so the more sincerity we have, the less hypocrisy we'll have. It's a very simple concept, isn't it? Or doesn't any? Yeah. So we focus on the polar opposite. So let's say, for example, hypocrisy. We focus on the polar opposite, which is sincerity, and we develop that. How do we develop that? Again, by taking account of what we do every single day. If we can have a look at the screen, please. So there are 7 levels to just being sincere. 7 levels. The first is, in all major good deeds, i.e. 5 daily prayers and 1 zikr, one should do them for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in order to attain salvation and reward in the hereafter. So a person should do these actions. Yeah, a person should do these is salah, is zikr, and all other major actions for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to attain salvation in the hereafter. Yeah, so it's very simple. To attain pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our intention should be to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to attain salvation in the hereafter. And if a person is doing this, again, simple process. 10 days the person has been doing it, 11th day he hasn't done this consciously, start again, and up until the person is building upon this, and then a person then a person moves on to dealing with one's pride or arrogance, with the polar opposite of humbleness, and then other ones and so on and so forth, up until a person's character is solid, and a person's character is a mirror of the Prophet ﷺ's character, obviously to a person's own level. Yeah. But now, let's say for example, we've purified the body, the mind, the heart. Are we going to attain salvation on that day? Now we have rights of parents. Yeah. Everyone knows that the rights of parents are thing. Now we should know, in Islamically speaking, not culturally or any other way, there are 3 types of parents. There are 3 types of parents, not mother, father, something else, but three sets of parents, if you will. The 3 types of parents. The first is one's biological parents, who brought a person into this world. One must respect them and follow them in all goodness. Secondly is the one's mother and father-in-law. They also have the status of parents as well. Really, we don't know this, but maybe we do, but the question is, do we act upon it? That's the second one. But the third one is, seldom people know this, is that the people, the mashayikh, who guide us in this world, who brought us from the alim arwah all the way here. Imagine there's one set of parents who brought us, who brought into this world, but there's one set of parents or parent who brought us from that world into this world. Now, what's the respect that they're due? So to follow and respect our spiritual parents. Can I put to follow and respect our spiritual parents and their guidance and their every move, and then inshallah we can hope for a better tomorrow today, inshallah. But now, one thing that hasn't been covered is, let's say for example a person doing it, their zikr, he's purifying, the person's purifying themselves, the person's praying their salah and the rest. But what about a person's everyday life? How can one bring their everyday life and have that ease on the Day of Judgment? How can a person do that? Is with these 4 comprehensive checks. If a person is doing one or more of these in every action, in every single action, if a person is doing one or more of these, then a person is preparing for their Day of Judgment tomorrow, their Day of Judgment today. Yeah, a person is preparing for their Day of Judgment today. But Majid, do you know how much time we've got left? 10, that's fine. So this is like a comprehensive check, yeah, on our everyday actions. So when we go into work, are we doing one of these 4 things? If we go to work with the intention of making money and putting it on Instagram, then that might not be the best intention, and then we may not be doing one of these things. Then we may not be preparing for our Day of Judgment, which is equivalent to, as the teacher mentioned, 800 years or more today. So let's say, for example, how can we, now this is a question, now how can we, let's say going to work or sitting with the family, how can we make that into a thing that prepares us for the Day of Judgment? Now this is a question now. Anyone want to volunteer? Anything on Zoom? Or what about our Zoom participants? Jaabir.
I mean, you go to work hoping to earn an income to go to Hajj, to give charity, to feed and clothe your family, and that.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, a person has been to Hajj and a person has been to Umrah and person has paid their zakat and all the rest of it. Then what? Then what's the thing you do? What's the intention then?
Still need to feed family equally.
Exactly. But the reason why I hold in on that one point is because people forget this, that really if we go out to earn money to feed our family so that we're not in debt and all the rest of it, this is really a big worship as well, isn't it? Why? Because a person is not relying on people, and when a person is in poverty and these types of things, then a person's more likely to maybe commit sin, to get the so if a person refreshes their intention in the beginning, middle and end, this is taught in the mind state as well, how we can bring our everyday life into our thing. Yes, that's the correct answer, mashallah. Yeah. So even when we're sitting with the family, if we have it with the intention that we want to maybe teach the family, but through tarbiyat. Yeah. So anyway, so they did a comprehensive check. So the first is giving preference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His commands. In everyday things, it's we should align ourselves to this, or giving preference to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and His Sunnah, or having compassion upon creation. Compassion upon creation is of two kinds. The first is to the stuff like welfare work, giving charity. The second is teaching people about how to better their life in this world, so tomorrow there's no difficulty. So are you giving dawah or tabligh? Yeah. So and the fourth thing is presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should be doing one or more of these things in our everyday life. Let's say, for example, even if you're walking, how can we do that? We're just walking around the park, so we can have it for the intention of exercise, and also we can be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Refresh the three keys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me, watching me and hearing me whilst I'm doing this, and then a person is really preparing for their day of judgment in that very action. Even in this masjid right now, we are sat here to learn about what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we can do the actions that please Him. And this fits in with the overall. This is like an overarching. Map, if you will. So you could say, in one sense, the people who are not prepared for that day of judgment will be here, and if they go through the mountains of the four conditions, if they go through these and rectify their beliefs, their knowledge, understand that they have to strive and repent, and then go through the purification and then give preference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then really their day of judgment will be easier, inshallah. So now, what do we do as part of a daily exercise? Every single day, we can leave here, we can get up off our seats today with the intention and with the knowledge of something that we can do every single day, every single moment of our lives, or every single day of our lives. We can prepare for that day. Like I said at the beginning, if our employer was to say to us, if you work one day, I'll give you a wage of 2.5 years. I don't know about everyone here, but the majority of people would work overtime. They'd put a shift in, they'll call their friends, family, they'll figure a way of how to do some sort of fraud on that as well, isn't it? But anyway, that's just a bit like hard humour. So the daily prescription of this day, what is it now? There's 5 things. There's 5 things that we could be doing on a daily basis that will really prepare ourselves for that day. The first is that a person does 20 minutes of La ilaha illallah zikr. Now what is this La ilaha illallah reaffirming? That it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is my Lord. La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no God but Allah. Meaning that the comfort of this world isn't my God. the ease and the tranquility of this world isn't my God. So there's a full method of how to do this. So a person imagines in the stomach region that there's like the ball of darkness there, and a person then says la, meaning no. So a person says la and drags out this darkness. But personalize this darkness now. If a person knows that they're struggling with greed, or a person knows that they're struggling with swearing, personalize this now. So look, I want to get out of this effect of swearing, that I know tomorrow my own tongue, imagine this now, my own tongue will give account for me on that day. I won't be able to speak, my tongue will say, Ya Allah, you use me in this way. So why not make the tongue moist with the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So maybe on that day the tongue will say, Ya Allah, you use me for your zikr. So yeah, so a person says la, and personalize this. Maybe the person knows that they struggle with greed. La, this greed is being dragged out to the person. La ilaha, meaning that it's not my Lord. As we can see on this diagram. As we can see on this diagram, la ilaha. That la, this is it's not my, and then ilaha meaning it's not my Lord, and we take this out of ourselves, and then we picture the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above us, and light from the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down and strikes the heart, and when we say illallah, and we continuously do it like this, and then the light is the heart is being the heart is being enlightened more and more, and this seeps through to the nafs as well, because the mashayikh say that the nafs resides in this region. Yeah, so that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that we do is the muraqabah of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the muraqabah dua. So what we do in this is that we look at the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 3 minutes. I person literally looks at the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 3 minutes, and then a person closes their eyes and pictures it, writes out the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their mind, writes out the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then begins to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine the being. What do we say when we recite Surah Fatiha? Maliki Yawmiddin. Imagine the owner of that day, we are speaking to him now. Whatever problems we have, not only the owner of that day, but the owner of this day as well. Whatever problems we have, we speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about them. Whatever sins that we have, that we're thinking that, Ya Allah, I'm so ashamed, but we speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about these sins. And then whatever blessings we have, we speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about these blessings also. Yeah? That's the second thing that we do. And then we do this for 10 minutes, We speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about everything and anything for 10 minutes. Then we focus on the sincerity sheet. That's the third thing that we do. So does anyone want to give me like a brief description of this sincerity sheet? Anyone? Maybe online. Our online participants haven't had that much engagement. Maybe. Is there anything online? Maybe anyone from here, Brother Tasneem?
In terms of how to do it?
Yeah. So the method of the sincerity sheet.
I remember the general way of doing the sheet. So there's various levels.
Yeah.
And then for each level, you try to obey by the rule set within the box for 30 days.
Yeah.
And then for when you do break a rule, then you have to cross and start again.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah. So do you want to ask a friend or the audience for the rest of it, 50-50, or what do you
I don't know it.
Londoner.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. To be honest, I probably would have said similar to Tahsin. Maybe just say that on sincerity, I think there were 7 levels. The first one was to attain the pleasure of Allah, as well as I think it was avoiding the punishment. I think that's what it was.
So he's got it correct. So we do our daily actions of the 5 salah and 1 zikr. with the intention. So our intention should be in the beginning, middle, and end of these actions is that I'm doing it for the sake and pleasure of Allah. I'm doing it for Allah and to attain salvation in the hereafter. So there's two. It's like a dual intention. Yeah. So obviously the overarching intention is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we do it for the pleasure of to attain salvation in the hereafter as well. So that's very correct, mashallah. So the next one is the one of the tongue. Anyone want to elaborate on that? That's very easy. Gold medal this way, please. Can we get a gold medal? No. Yeah. So it's yeah. So basically, it's avoiding the sins of the tongue. If a person avoids them, it's a tick. If a person doesn't, it's a cross. And only if a person does it intentionally. Now sorry.
Just a quick question. Are you meant to do all of these in parallel concurrently, or do you do one for 30 days, then you move on to the next one, and then you try to maintain, or is it like that where you do all of them start all at the same time and then hope for the best?
Yeah. No. It's we always hope for the best anyway. But
Sorry.
And so these are the 5 daily actions that we should be doing. Yeah. So let's say, for example, if a person's completed 30 days on the tongue sheet, then a person will go to his mentor, and his mentor will move him onto the next sheet, which will be of the ears or any one of the body ones. Once a person has done the full 7 of the body, i.e. the tongue, eyes, ears, feet, hands, then a person will move on to the mind. Does that make sense? So it's like a sequence. So a person purifies the body first by doing the tongue, then the eyes, then the ears, then the hands, and the feet, private parts. So once a person has purified the body, then he'll move on to the mind. Yeah, and then a person goes through the levels of the mind. And a person, it depends on the individual person. If one's mentor tells them to focus on the previous ones as well, yeah, then a person has to do that as well. But,
Even if you've completed the checklist, you could technically go back and
yes. So let's say, for example, if a person's completed the tongue sheet and he's moving on to the ear sheet, one's mentor could say, you can only get a tick on the ear sheet if you do, but you have to watch out for the tongue and the ears as well. Yeah. But that's all sort of tailored individually. That is, yeah. So there's 4 that's been mentioned. There's one more here now, which is the prayer sheet. So now, G.
So just a quick question, just for clarification or something. Let's say you was doing the tongue sheet, for example, and let's say you moved on to the second stage now. Let's say for example, let's say it could be ears. Let's say if one was to get across on one, does that mean he starts from the beginning again?
Like I mentioned, that's individually tailored by the mentor. That is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's for example, if a person's on the ears and they commit a sin of the tongue, then that's individually tailored by the mentor for that mentee. Then the majority of the times is that if a person does it off the tongue as well, it's an X and the person starts again. So a person has to sort of keep up to thingy. But like I said, it's individually given by the mentor. That is. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you, mashallah. So I'm guessing we've got literally what, 5 minutes? 4? 4? So yeah. So we've got one last sheet, which is the prayer sheet. Now we've not gone into this, but I'll quickly brush over this as well, inshallah. So the prayer sheet is that we want to attain the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout our prayers, isn't it? That we want to not only just outwardly worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just do the actions and say the words and get it over and done with. Well, because we'll be questioned about this as well on the day of judgment, isn't it? So what we have to do is in each posture of our salah, so let's say, for example, a person in qiyam standing, the person will refresh the intention. A person will refresh the thought, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me, watching me and hearing me. So in each posture of salah, this will really hone in on the fact that I am worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm worshipping Him who has my life in His control. and then a person prays Surah Fatiha and then prays the Surah and then goes into Ruku, then a person then in Ruku as well, a person refreshes the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me, watching me and hearing me. Person gets back up and so on and so forth. So each posture of the salah is a person's taught to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these. So the last couple of minutes we'll have as question and answer, but does everyone understand this last section, the fifth thing that we have to do, the fifth action? Does everyone have any questions in regards to that?
Not the process, but just generally in terms of the charts. Do you have a PDF?
Yeah, we're going to give everyone who requested all the relevant material for it. So it's there's like a full-on booklet, the full-on book that's made as well, inshallah. Yeah, brother.
It's a good question. You know, salvation, right? So you don't need to do tongue and salvation together. You just start off with tongue. Sorry, tongue and sincerity together. You just do tongue.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's these 5 things that we do together. If you look on the screen, it's these 5 things that we do on a daily basis. Yeah. So one's zikr, one's muraqabah, the tongue sheet, the sincerity sheet, and the prayer sheet.
Okay, so you do those last 3 we do together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on a daily basis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so person does that, and person monitors themselves with regards to these 3 things on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Do you? Oh, sorry.
I had one small part, and on the sincerity one, so it said it has to be 2 parts. You want to attain Allah's pleasure, and you also want to attain His salvation. Does that then mean if you're just seeking salvation, that would be a sign of hypocrisy?
No, because there's 3 intentions that deemed as good intentions. The best intention is to do things for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's one which is the lowest, which is to do something for salvation of the hellfire, meaning to be saved from the hellfire. The second in that order is to seek salvation. No, is to want the positive, meaning Jannah and the like. But the ultimate is the seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once a person has done level 1 of the sincerity sheet, level 2 is a person just focuses on the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why? Because the majority of people don't want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, like, if you look out in the world, the majority of people don't want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want a motivation factor there, isn't it? So that's the whole reason behind heaven and hell, isn't it? You know, like it's a fear and hope concept, isn't it? Does that answer your question? Yeah. One brother.
Assalamu alaikum. But so before everyone leaves here, will they all be assigned to a mentor?
Yeah, they would.
Everyone, yeah?
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay.
Inshallah. The majority of people should already have mentors. Those who don't, they'll come and approach myself. The new people come and approach myself, or Brother Saraj at the back, if you can stand up. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Brother Majid's going to mention anyway. So does everyone have any questions with regards to this now? So now, if I can ask one question, see if no one's got any questions. The sincerity sheet, what's the process of putting a tick on there? Process meaning, so Brother Javed, can you? No, nice. Yeah, I would. Brother Wasim, Uncle Wasim. No, do you wanna? So the process is that in the beginning, middle, and end of every action, the beginning, middle, and end, we refresh our intention. Yeah, and then if we do that, we put a tick, and if we don't, we put an X, and we start again. That's everyone's understanding that, yeah. Yeah.
That's for the majority of the task, isn't it? That's how we will go toward that. Say, for
Yeah.
example, because you're not going to have it's at the end of the day, isn't it? So when you've done your prayer, when you've got
Yeah.
So we will put, like, say, 70% of the time we did it.
Yeah.
And you put a tick.
So for now, it's the major actions. So it's just the salah and one zikr, just for now, and then we develop it afterwards. You know, because you can't, if someone was to put a full plate of food I shouldn't use the word food when everyone's fasting. Let's say a full plate of money, if in front of us, even if we wanted to, if this room was full of money, even if we wanted to, we couldn't pick everything up at once, could we? So we'd have to take it in stages, isn't it? Deal with that side first, pick up the 50 notes on this side here, pick up the 20 notes on this side, and then by the end of the day, we can have it all collected. So it's the same concept that we're all being built up to something higher as well, inshallah, in each one of these. And that's one thing to mention as well, and this is the last thing that I'll mention, is that these things that I've mentioned here, these are just the start of the things. So even with the prayer sheet, there's one that I think the fourth or fifth level is that you imagine as though you are praying in the either the grave or the day of judgment or on the sirat or what's being questioned. You every single prayer you pray, you imagine as though you were praying. How would you feel at that time? And there's one level of the prayer sheet that you pray every prayer as though it's your last prayer. So the point we mentioned was these are just a starting, and a person can develop themselves higher and higher, and inshallah. So I'd like to hand over and.
Jazakallah khair to Ustaz Jaabir for that session, and really we should now be thinking, am I really going to implement this and bring that change? Because this is the point about bringing change. We can think we'll go away and maybe somehow magically a change will come, but as our blessed teacher said, we are the ones who has to force a change first within ourselves. It's not going to happen magically as such. And really this is, as Ustaz Jaabir outlined, the prescription. This is the prescription we have to take. No point having that prescription from the doctor and then not going to the pharmacy, because clearly the script on its own will have no effect upon you. You have to go and get the medicine and take it. So really this is now the time and the point to make that sincere intention that I will do this. This is the time, this is the retreat, this is the day I want to change. Those new brothers not going to just leave you to yourselves after this retreat and hope that you find the path or the route to Jannat itself. You're going to be given that support, and you really should take advantage of that. The existing brothers, there's plenty of existing brothers here. The ones who haven't had a review, contact your mentor, get that review done. That really is a change for you today, to say, yes, I've got a mentor, I've not had a review for whatever reason, I've lapsed, I've not done this, I've not done that. Well, that is a change you can bring about within yourself today, that I will have that review and I will really start again. There's no shame in really starting again. We're all going to fall down, it's how you get up. So that concludes this session. Just in terms of scheduling, there's a Asr Jamaat is at 5 o'clock. If any brothers wish to have a one-to-one with any of the Ustads, or even the blessed teacher, they should give their names to myself, and we will try to facilitate that. We can't obviously guarantee those will take place, but we'll try to facilitate that. Straight after the Asr Salah, we're going to have the graveyard visit. So as soon as the Salah is done, brothers should make their way there. They shouldn't hang around in here or outside. They should even decide whom they're going with now, so that as soon as the Salah is done, the Dua is done, we're out and we're at the graveyard waiting for the blessed teacher, and we can benefit from a walk with the teacher. So that's in terms of the scheduling up till Maghrib, and obviously we'll inform you just before Maghrib of the final session just after Maghrib.
So the online can come up on
Quoted. Yeah, okay. And just in terms of the online participants, there is no session now until around 6:50 p.m. So about 10 to 7, inshallah, the live link will be sent out where we will be, inshallah, concluding the retreat. So if the online participants could rejoin at that time, then that would be grateful. Other than that, we shall see you in due course. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.